Hey everybody, Leo Des here with the Access Control Executive Brief, and we're at ISC West at the AI Discovery Zone. And actually excited, we took a little break from the conversations we've been having with the different companies that are participating in the AI Discovery Zone. And I have somewhat of a industry, becoming an industry legend here, and Teresa Wu, who I'll have her introduce herself and the what she's working on doing. But what I more want to do is have Teresa speak to really where identity and credentialing and get her point of view. Every time we engage, there's always a great conversation around where the industry's going, the thought leadership, and the rest. So, Teresa, thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Lee, for having me.
Of course. Please, I did my introduction of you, but will you please introduce yourself and give a little bit about your background?
Sure. So my name is Teresa Wu. I work for IDEMIA Public Security in North America. I'm responsible for the smart credentials and the digital markets. And I have been in the industry for quite a bit, starting in the biometric side, actually in access control.
Yeah.
And then I started going into the government market. And recently I was sort of like responsible for all the mobile driver license deployment in the state. So learn a lot, quite a bit of what digital ID means
Right.
from a public sector side
And scale.
and scale it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the difference. A lot of you have a lot of experience seeing it as it goes. So if you were to summarize sort of like where are we at right now with
Yeah.
credentialing and identity and we may even be mixing them all up together, but where are we right now if you were to give this sort of state of the industry in your view?
I think in the access control space, like in the world this world of ISCOS, right,
Yeah.
in the security enterprise security, I think we're in this in this crossroad where we're like, okay, we need to have a flexible credentials to be able to do it what we need to do the last 20 years, physically speaking, but then also help us usher into a digital space. But when we have mobile users with mobile credentials and other use cases, how are we going to do that? And we have also additional use cases, like the prop tech, like the gig economy, right? So I think we're in this crux where we're like, okay, we need a more flexible credentials, to get more flexibility. How can we break away from the traditional proprietary format because for security's sake,
Right.
and we realize that proprietary format is not more secure.
Yeah.
So I think we're in this we need in this space where we need to find a path forward, and what is that path?
So if you were to, I agree, especially when there's times of change, right, uncertainty, especially as an industry that I would argue that we've been somewhat predictable for the past, how many ever years, and we've entered in a room of unpredictability for a lot of good reasons and the rest. But so what is that path forward then, if it was from your point of view, what would that look like?
So I'm gonna do a plug for the Security Industry Association.
Yeah.
I think we have to do this together as a collaboration
Right.
across the aisle, between in the ecosystem, from the end users, from the manufacturer, and everybody in between.
Yeah.
We need to find at least a workable, practical path forward. Not just someone in the silo come up with, oh, I'm just have a standard, just use that. And I'm like, have you checked with other people to prove this thing? So I think collaboration is super important. It work in the room, have put our brain together to agree on the basics,
Yeah.
right? I think SIA did a good job at it. I'm super excited. For example,
What's it called?
SIA.
No, I know SIA, but there's that's that one. No, there's a working group
Yes.
there.
So super excited is that at this ISCOS we kick off
Yeah.
the credential design working group under the standard committee,
Yeah.
and the goal is to create design guidelines on what a enterprise credential should look like physically first, digital, cryptographically, how to make it secure, or what is the level of security we should expect a credential looks like. Hopefully, from there we can expand it and start doing alignment. And that guidelines is not really for the manufacturers. The guideline is really more about the practitioner to know what they're signed up for.
Sure. So on the design guide, where does it start and where does it end? Like, are we talking about actually the way that a picture goes on a card down, or you mentioned cryptography? So like where?
I think so it's a collective work.
Okay.
We just I'm one of the co-chairs, so
Sure.
I don't want to say it's a Teresa direction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think at high level we did develop the charter. I think the charter would be this design committee, credential design working group. It could be wherever that makes sense. I think graphical guidelines it's a must
Yeah.
have. What needs to be on it, not where places, because I think some company
Design.
want culture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
you want some flexibility. It's not like dictating how it should be,
Gotcha.
but it's also giving people understanding when you add certain security features, what it means,
Sure.
what it give your investment in return.
Right.
So I'm hoping that with the design guidelines, it can become best practice and maybe standard in the down the road.
Right. So I'm curious your point on this. I mentioned this earlier. I don't remember through one of these conversations I've had. It seems to me like the credential side that part of the where we got to where we got to today was that the value seemed to be around the credential. And it seems that we've now shifting to the value is what the credential does. So that are we getting to a point where it doesn't matter as much the differentiation, if you would, or the proprietariness of that credential because actually the value now exists in what you do with it versus having a credential?
I would say that we are going that way, but I think having, yeah, I would say that it's very important to get how you get that credentials.
Yeah.
We haven't aligned on that. Hopefully, at some point we will align on that.
Sure.
But yes, and then after that, what you do with the credentials,
Yeah.
right? And that give value to the organizations, and producing that value for organizations is super important.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. I think that we can get there, invest in creating a credentials. It's because you want return on investment. It's what you do with it,
Sure.
right? I think it's sort of that, not chicken and the egg, but the upstream and downstream kind of relationship.
Yeah, no, I very much agree. Especially to the value is no longer just like letting people in the door. There's
Yes.
a lot more that it's doing, and a lot of that's unknown. And we'll probably have some working groups too that go in there. What's also interesting to me is that I do think it's going to bring some of the familiar faces to the table, but now there's an entire world of other people that will start to come in
Yeah.
as well. That it will be interesting to see them bringing their point of views of how things show up in like pay and everything else that goes on, even down into like connected cars and other areas. So it'll be interesting to see these new voices come in. But I do think our industry has an opportunity to be at the center of that
Yes.
due to the value that we've been giving on keeping bad people out and then keeping people safe. All right, so there's a ton of this type of information, and I know you're early. So if people want to get involved in this, like, what's the best way to do so?
So we're working with SIA. We are gonna make a call for participation
Okay.
through the SIA membership.
Yeah.
And we just ask for participation. We're looking at with our co-chair Tiffany Rand
Yeah.
from ISC. We are
Yeah.
co-chairing this, and we looking at meeting once a month, looking at how we divide and conquer which part we're going to develop into different interest parties.
Yeah.
And our goal is to, don't hold me on it, but really our target goal is 1 year from now, the next ISC West, we can at least have a draft of this design guide and we can go around the table, debate,
Yeah.
sharing it, get feedback. Ultimately, I would like to have a design guidelines so that I can go to the SPAC group and say, what do you think?
What do you think? Yeah.
Is it practical? Is it make sense?
Yeah.
Would that have any more value out of it? Can we do more?
Right. And for those that aren't familiar, Spark is the end user forum of, which is it sounds end users that are there that have a voice within the
security practitioner having
Yeah,
a
I
real
never-
conversation.
Yeah, I
Something
didn't know
like
what it
that.
was. Yeah, something like that. But it's end users, so
Yes.
it's another area. It's actually kind of exciting to think about from a SIA point of view. Like we launched the startups in security recently. We had a thing. We had 130 people here that were interested in it. We have this now as well. So it's like no better time to get involved than now. It's not like I don't know. I won't say it was always like this. It's not, but there's a lot going on currently right now that you could have a massive impact if you have the desire to get involved.
Yes. And now you speak like a board of director of
I
SIA. Just
don't believe I've spoken like that before, but I appreciate that.
yes, congratulations
So,
again, by the way.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be there. So thank you. So, all right. Well, if people want to get a hold of you and find out, Teresa, if you haven't followed along, she's got a ton of information. I highly recommend engaging. Not short on opinions, facts, experience. It's fantastic. So if people want to get a hold of you, where's the best way?
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Can find me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
See the importance. One of my trends when we talk about later is I think this is the first ISC West show that I've been to where the online presence matters as much as the offline. There's a fundamental change that's happened here. So we'll talk more about that later. But
Yes.
Teresa, thank you very much for being here. I really do appreciate it. We've been trying to do this, and we'll do it more. I know. I know.
Been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, of course.